I don't know if we've talked about coffee on here before, but I recently just got the DeLonghi espresso machine, the basic one, and it's taken me a minute to figure out how to actually make good Americanos. That's my favorite drink because I feel like the espresso is not strong enough, the flavor. I don't know. And I've tried espresso beans and making sure that they're ground correctly and all of that. But I feel like I'm finally kind of getting into a groove of it. And I don't even put hot water in it or cold water. I just steam milk if it's hot or put ice in if it's cold. And then a splash of my oat milk. So I love it, but still feel like I haven't quite figured it out. So if you have any tips on this, please let me know. I'm still trying to figure it out. I thought I would just get it and be making, Americanos that taste just like at a cafe. Anyway, I'll get there. My name is Amy. If you are new here, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. Something's been on my mind lately about just this idea. I've been reflecting a lot. I just had a birthday, so I'm doing a lot of reflecting and thinking about where I was, especially a decade ago. I don't know why that's what's coming up for me. And I love cycles. I love being able to kind of look back and see like goals that I've set and progress that I've made and things like that. And, I'm coming up to a pretty big birthday soon, and it's just giving me time to really think about how do I want to approach the next decade, things like that. So I was just doing a lot of reflecting on how much I've grown in the last, especially 10 years or so, and how I was feeling right before I had this major kind of pivotal shift. And I remember I was going and reading self-help books. I still love going to a bookstore or the library. I read every night. But at the time I was looking for a lot of self-help books because I was just feeling this major disconnect, and I was really feeling I was trying all the things, or at least it felt like I was, and I just was still feeling a kind of like an emptiness, a disconnect. I think those are the best ways to describe it. And I kept feeling there was something wrong with me. And as I have been able to reflect back on that time and my time since, I don't really feel anymore like it is so much that I needed to change me, which is why I was having such a hard time feeling any better. I feel like for all of us, it's not as much about changing ourselves, finding some answer in a book or hearing somebody else talk about it, but it's so much more about, we're already who we are at our core level, our souls, our highest selves. But I believe what I needed to do at that time was actually reconnect to who I was. And to do that, I had to start really removing things like beliefs I'd picked up along the way, judgments I'd picked up along the way, ideas that weren't mine, these, things I picked up from society that it happens to everybody, but we don't even realize it if we're not self-aware. And so that is just something that I want to talk more about this today, because I wish that, especially 10 years ago, when I felt like I was having such a hard time with this, I wish I had heard something like this, been able to reflect on this idea, based on conversations I've had with friends and people and communities that I'm a part of over the last decade. I realized that I think this is kind of common, and I feel like, we don't live in an environment generally where slowing down and getting quiet with ourselves and kind of becoming more self-aware we don't have environments that are necessarily created for that. We are certainly getting more of them, which I am so grateful for. But I feel like you really have to be seeking a little bit to start deeply connecting and really recognizing these things. And, I'm speaking from my experience, but I've heard people really mirror that back to me in conversations over the years. So I just want to kind of talk about like areas that it really stood out to me. For example, at the time, a huge one was around my career. I was going to say I kind of did what I was supposed to do. I did and I didn't. I did go to college. I got the degree, but I actually didn't graduate until I was, I think 27 or 28. And I was supporting myself, and that's just how it all unfolded for me. So by the way, if you're somebody who feels like you're too old or something to do anything, you're not. I believe we're never too old. I feel better now than I ever have at my age and just like what's ahead of me. So at the time, career was a huge thing for me. And I was even then torn between these two worlds of like, I'm supposed to get that degree. I'm supposed to get a job that's salaried, that has these benefits, things like that. This 9 to 5, there's this like linear progress you're supposed to make, with increases in title and salaries and things, and your 2-week vacation a year, at least at the time. Now people get a little more a lot of times, but I just kind of felt like that's what I was supposed to do. But there was something inside of me that was always restless with that and just saying like, no, that's not you. But I kind of ignored that for a while, or I'd listen to it a little bit, but then feel like, well, what am I supposed to do? And so, that was a big thing for me. Career, that's where I really saw it. And I also saw it in like how I was spending my time and what my hobbies were or what they weren't. I didn't really have a lot of hobbies. I was just so busy, that's the thing, is we're all so busy. There's so much noise around us. And I kind of got to a place though where it's like I hit kind of like an emotional bottom of just like, something has to change. Like I can't just ignore this anymore. And through a series of events and some pretty big pivotal moments, I finally had like an aha for me of what was the catalyst that kind of shifted me. And there were a series of events in about a year span, and it just really, it kind of forced me to like see myself and sit with myself. And what I learned in that is that I didn't need to change me. I needed to start stripping away, like I mentioned, the ideas, these beliefs that weren't mine. I had to actually slow down and get quiet enough to be able to recognize what they were. Ideas around what I wanted my future to look like, because that's what my friends were doing, or that's what my sister was doing, or that's what like the people around me were doing. And then realizing that, wait, I don't actually want all of those things. Those are not the things that are lighting me up. Even around, these timelines of, oh, at these ages, you need to do these things, or you should have accomplished these things by these ages. And that was just not my reality. And I also carried a lot of kind of like guilt and shame because of things around this. And I feel like I even kind of lacked definitely self-awareness, even some self-respect at times, because I was just kind of like seeking outside of myself to figure out who I am and how I'm supposed to be going about life. And I was looking for these outside kind of like, okay, here, this represents accomplishment. This represents I'm doing it right. Okay, I am now successful because of this. But those things were not, in my heart, they were not making me happy, or they were not satisfying me or fulfilling me. And I have always been very deep, I guess. I've always thought of things from a much deeper perspective and felt like things have more meaning. And I don't believe that we are just here to work and then retire at 65 if we're lucky, and then have, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 good years when to, live out the rest of our lives. I have never believed that that is the only option. If it is, people who are so excited about that, I fully support it, but I don't believe that there's one size fits all. And I've always known that that was not right for me. But again, like, I didn't grow up in an environment where it wasn't bad, but it wasn't encouraging, other possibilities, other options. And I know why, because, my parents, my family came from environments where they saw this as success, as what would give you this lot of like stability and security. And it kind of did at first for me, and then it didn't. And then it made me realize there's still just something in me that isn't feeling satisfied. And I fully believe that we're here to experience joy and satisfaction, and that there's so much more to it than just like working really hard and then getting things from that, but never having time to enjoy those things. And so I had to get really honest with myself. I had to get quiet. That's when I started practicing yoga. I started meditating. I started doing things that helped me really connect to myself. And I remember even when I started meditating, I couldn't sit still for more than like 30 seconds. My mind was so loud. And so many times I hear people say, well, I can't sit still or concentrate that long, so I can't meditate, which is, that person probably needs it the most then, And like my mind was that loud when I started out. But it was through these things. It was through sitting down and journaling and like seeing how I was feeling and really getting honest about that, and starting to pay attention to like triggers, things that made me feel emotionally charged, and saying like, okay, like exploring those emotions, because those are indicators for us. And I was reading a book recently where they're talking about how our emotions, what if we see them as not as much something of, I feel this way, so I need to act on this. This is the truth and this is everything. But what if our emotions were actually the signal to us that something in us is out of alignment when we don't feel good? So rather than trying to change the things outside of us to make us feel better, we actually get quiet with ourselves and recognize where our thoughts are and our emotions are, and start to make micro shifts to those. I have loved this idea, and I've really been focusing on it a lot lately, and saying like, why not just give it a shot, when these feelings come up? Why not shift it and stop like seeing it as this situation or this thing is making me feel a way, and rather saying, what if this is just that signal to me that something's out of alignment? This isn't serving me. The way I'm seeing this or thinking about this is not actually aligned with my highest self. And I also don't believe that like people or things outside of us make us feel a way. I think that we have so much more control over that. But again, it's something we're not aware of. So this just kind of comes back to this idea that for me, I didn't need to change me. I needed to see what were the things that I believed, what were the emotional reactions I was having, what were some judgments I picked up along the way, what were these ideas that I thought I was supposed to have and do with my life that were not they weren't me. But I had just kind of gotten to a place of being just complacent enough that I was kind of just going through the motions, and I wasn't necessarily thinking about how, is this really aligning with me inwardly as well as on the outside? Okay, this is exciting because someone else is excited about it, but does it really excite me? Is this lighting me up? And I think that this is so important, and it's just, it is so hard for people to get to this. We're so busy. People have families and children and animals and spouses and jobs and all of these different things, and we're never making time to kind of quietly sit with ourselves and say, like, where do I fit in with all of this? What are my joys and beliefs and desires? And what are the things that align me to myself, to my soul? I also believe that, our soul is that part of us that, when you do something and you're like, I shouldn't do it. There's something in me telling me not to. And then you do it and you regret it. That thing that told you not to is that higher self, your soul, whatever you want to refer to it as. And that I've learned that the only regrets that I actually have are the ones that I make based on the influence of somebody else. If I listen to that part of me, I don't ever regret anything because it's guiding me. It's, that's what the truth is. That's what's going to align me, because it is the alignment, and I just spent so long ignoring that and allowing the things outside of me to become so much louder than that. And the last 10 years, instead of I've been doing this for a while, but the last 10 years have been the most pivotal for me. But instead of spending them trying to change myself, I've spent them kind of like undoing this, almost like this web that has been created around me. I had to start one thing at a time, like taking it off, peeling it away from myself and saying, I don't like this. This isn't mine. I don't actually feel this way. I don't want this to represent me because it's not me, Taking these things off one at a time has reconnected me to myself. It has cleared my energy. It has cleared me from those outside factors. And, I'm human. This is not something I perfect every single day. But with the amount of work I've done, I am in such a more a balanced and clear place than I ever was. And now it's more just about maintaining that on a daily basis and checking in with myself and recognizing when I do need to, I need to get a little quiet today. Today I need to go out in nature. Today I need to, just spend the day with my dog or read my book, or today I need to be social, recognizing what those things are now. So, gosh, I've just really been thinking about this, and I love being able to reflect back on it and think about how much I've done. And I feel so grateful that things in my life came together in a way where I could connect to this idea and then actually start applying it to my life, and then also seeing major results from it. I used to kind of think that in order to have the shifts I was looking for, these connections, that it must take something so huge or so hard or challenging, and it must be something outside of me. But it's never that, it's always getting quiet and going inward and taking the time for that. And I promise, if you start doing those little things every day, if you started with just a minute of meditation, just getting a little bit quiet, that will add up. And it will lead to, feeling more and more clear and more balanced and less anxiety, which I've had a ton in my own life. And it has helped me so much with all of those kinds of things. And so I have a feeling that this is a topic we're probably going to talk about a lot more and really kind of go into aspects of it in more detail. But I feel like this is a really good starting place, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this, any comments or questions you might have. And if you got anything out of this, if you'd like to know when my next video comes out, please consider subscribing, give me a thumbs up, and I will talk to you next time.